everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to be taking a light-hearted fun look at three aspects of Overwatch that at this point really need to be discarded in the name of everyone's sanity. With the start of Season 12 soon upon us, these changes could make the whole ranked experience that much better. Now according to our comments section, Brigitte and Symmetra would be at the top of some people's delete lists, but they're not going to feature today, so sorry to disappoint some of you. What is going to feature are things that might have solid intentions, but in practice just either annoy people or at worst, discourage them from playing entirely. So the first thing that I'd like to strap to a rocket and fire into space never to be seen again, at least in their current form, are placement matches. I don't know about you, but the idea of having to play 10 games at the start of every season just to get placed in almost exactly the same spot drives me absolutely crazy. I've played in every competitive season and my SR has remained within a roughly 500 SR bracket the entire time. The game knows that I go from the border of Diamond to the border of Masters consistently. My brief, oh I'm going to play Tracer now, oh wait I'm Platinum, phase of my career, of which we won't discuss any further notwithstanding, I get placed at the same level compared to my previous season's finish almost every time with very minor fluctuations. I'm always asking myself, what purpose do placement matches actually serve? If the gap between seasons was wider, then maybe I could see their value. Players might put in significant practice or quite the opposite, making new appraisals of their skill useful. But the gaps are measured in days, not weeks, and the reality is that players are not going to shift hardly at all in terms of their level, hence why you always get placed so close to where you left off. Now for new players who perhaps have never played comp before, then fine. I think they're okay, but 10 matches has always felt redundant. It feels like a chore you have to do before you actually get to play, and for what? I've won like 9 games out of 10 and been up like 3 SR. I've also lost most of my matches and placed like 10 SR down. Jeff, please. I don't think these matches serve the intent set out for them anymore, and because of that, a lot of people don't try or mess around anyway because they inherently understand how little impact they actually have, making the games a bit of a farce. There's two parts of a comp season which often descend into temporary Torb-made madness. One right at the end when everyone has just given up on the grind upwards, and right at the beginning when everyone is just like, can we get these 10 matches over with already? My suggestion is that instead of doing this weird dance in rank purgatory twice a season, we limit that to just once at the end. The final day throw-tacular seems to be an unstoppable force of nature, but placement matches could be reworked into something less offensive. I'll even compromise. Instead of having my ideal, which would be like 3 matches to place, I'll split the difference and say 5. On average, that would probably take most players like an hour, or a little bit more if they get unlucky with 5 2CP matches in a row that go the distance. A lot of players don't have endless hours to play, nor do they have those hours at the same time as their friends necessarily, meaning friend groups can get staggered in terms of how many more placements they need, and if some of you are ranked and some aren't, depending on your level, you might not even be able to play together. I mean, that's a whole other issue in and of itself, but it's particularly annoying when trying to place. It's just another small barrier in between players and fun, and Overwatch needs to eradicate as many of those as possible. I had a crazy idea that maybe placements could take into account how many previous seasons you've played as part of the equation. New players would play the most to get their level more accurate. If you've played in every single season since the game has had rank, then maybe you play a lot less with your most recent season SR total having the biggest weight. The other direction that you could go, and this is a little bit controversial, although quite a common community opinion, is that you make the placements be much more impactful in terms of where they put you. As in, you lose a lot, say goodbye to a serious chunk of SR compared to last season, or the flip side of that, you win a lot and your starting position looks a lot better. Now I can see the logic of that, but I think in the long run it would really mess with people. Say you get a bad start and normally you're a mid-plat player, but now you have to contend with gold matches at the beginning of a season. I think players would be actively discouraged from carrying on. Everyone always thinks about the best case scenario as if they'd win every placement, but in reality that wouldn't be what happened. A much better course of action, at least in my opinion, is to just reduce the amount of wasted time in between where you finished and where you recommence the actual grind. Blizzard, you know I'm a hard-struck 3400 Diamond, Ana and Zen main. Can we just get right to the point so I can try and fail to be better? Thanks sincerely, Eddie the Chump. Right, this next topic has been in my sights for quite a while. I think the Decay mechanic can politely go and do one. There was once a time where it made sense, when at the very top level of the ranked ladder, players were vying for top 500 spots and Blizzard wanted to ensure people couldn't just get an account into that prestigious echelon and then never play again, ostensibly robbing someone else of having the opportunity to get there. That example has largely been taken care of because you now need to have phone validation on an account for it to be eligible, which means at most players are limited to having 1 or perhaps 2 accounts qualify, and those tend to be the accounts they play on the most. Smurfs Stats were actually a big problem in top 500 at the same time, and the phone situation has largely solved that too. Players like aimbot Calvin and others had many smurfs, all at the highest SR levels. In fact, at one time I think Calvin had like 10 accounts all in top 500, and that was obviously an issue. Now actually, for that top level, I think Decay still has its place, but for the rest of us from 3k all the way up to GM, I think it's just a massive pain. The idea, I think, is that Decay is used to keep people playing so that SR is always accurate, as Blizzard doesn't want players to be playing at levels they are either too high or too low for, if at all possible. But here's the thing, in doing that, the actual result is that players lose rank for pretty much no reason quite often. As I said before, people don't always have endless hours to play, and not all in a smooth distribution either. Sometimes players have bursts of time to play intensely, and then perhaps 2 weeks go by when life gets in the way. 7 games a week doesn't sound like much, but when you have full-time work or other commitments, it's very easy to have it happen to you. Just personally, I've been like 2 games away from Masters on many occasions, and then work has got in the way, and oh, I'm 3k again, time to start over. My question is, does that really indicate the reality of what's happened? No, I didn't go on a massive D rank, I just had work to do. Now how the matchmaker handles a decayed account is also an issue. Say you're GM and then you decay to 3k for various reasons. Well then you play again and you'll be put in matches that are accurate to your MMR, not your SR, which is a good thing. You'll be put in GM games. If you win, you get mad SR gains to try and get you back to where you were, but God forbid you lose a couple, because congratulations, you're now platinum. Except you're not a plat, you're a GM level player. So suddenly through chance, you're playing at a level that you really shouldn't be at. How is that fair on either party? If you're GM and this happens to you, you'll likely stomp players who are actually plat and diamond and slowly make your way back up. But in the meantime, how is this fair on them? My point is, this should never be a thing in the first place. What possible harm does taking Decay away actually have? An inactive player keeps their rank, okay, but they're not playing, so how does that negatively affect other players? It doesn't, unless they're taking up a top 500 spot, which as I've already said, I'm okay with keeping it for that context. But if a GM takes 2 weeks off, are they suddenly not a GM level player anymore? No, most likely they'll take 1 or 2 games to get back into the swing of things, and that's that. What Decay does is different to what I think its intention is. I'd even go as far to say Decay gives people reasons to not come back to playing. How is that good? It's not, and as I said earlier, it can respectfully take a long walk off a short pier. Now the last thing that I think needs deleting from existence is the gold medal system. I am sorry, I can hear some of you in the comments scrambling to say that you like them because they make you feel good and they give you feedback on how you're doing in a game, but I counter with a firm but good-natured wrong. They do neither, and here's why. The stats they track aren't really reflective of in-game performance. Why do healers need to track their limbs? Maybe there's a case for Zen, but that's ignoring the bigger picture. The best and most accurate feedback is whether you're winning or losing a match. What gold medals often allow players to do is to use them as defensive evidence for showing that they're not the problem in a losing effort. I have gold limbs, I'm sticking with this pick that may or may not be working. I have gold damage, I'm doing damage things. Yes, but maybe not at the right time and on the right things, as we're currently getting rolled. I didn't even know they could finish this map this quickly. Why is objective time a medal tracking stat? What does that even tell you? That you've been on cart a lot? Well, there are numerous occasions where playing cart is actually an error in terms of win condition. Likewise, damage block can totally mislead a Rhine player. Actually, what you needed to do was save your shield for when you really needed it, not have it chipped down by poke damage constantly padding that stat, but leaving you open to having it broken and getting earth shattered every fight. The point is, gold medals distort the story of a match, and they don't tell you what you need to know. They lie to you. They try to reassure you with a nice medal making you feel better, but that's counterproductive. If they weren't there, then people would only have the match to focus on, and it would be much more obvious what was and wasn't working. Are you winning teamfights as a team, or are you losing them? Okay, what do we need to either keep winning as the map changes or side swap, or how do we stop the bleeding and make a comeback? The most toxic thing that medals do is make every player look at a match only through their own perspective, as if one's own statistical performance is all that matters. It is a team game after all. I know this part of the list could be quite divisive, and I want to make it clear I'm not against all in-game stats or players trying to gauge a game by interpreting them. I'm just against what we have now, which both fails to tell players the info they need and covers up a lot of one's own errors. Now I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you agree with this list and what things you'd like to see the back of. Brigitte, Sim and Torb don't count. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter so you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,